The All Elite Podcast. Covering all the latest news and results from the AEW.
Wait a minute. Sean Spears? Oh my God! Spears with a chair shot right to the side of the head of Cody.
This is pro wrestling analysis as you've never heard before.
Deathly Hallows!
Might be it.
1, 2, 3, Kasabian!
Coming to you every single week. So without any further delay, let's go all in and get the show started right now.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to this week's edition of the All Elite Podcast here on the WWE Podcast. My name is Jeff Johnson. I am your host. I'm excited to be here for another week of AEW Dynamite. This is going to be a very interesting show as it was last week. There's not going to be any fans in the crowd, but they are having a live show for us. So, I'm very excited to be a part of this weekend and see what kind of show they're going to give us. They had announced some matches ahead of time earlier this week, but as soon as the show kicked off, they actually gave us a different lineup than what they originally gave us. We are still getting the Kenny Omega versus Sammy Guevara match for the AAA Mega Championship that Kenny Omega currently holds, and he had won it from Rey Fenix either late last year or early this year. So it's going to be kind of cool seeing a AAA title defended in an AEW ring. We also have some other matches on the docket, which we'll get to when they happen. But, this is going to be another very interesting episode. Last week they had the guys in the crowd. They had some heels on one side. They had some baby faces on the other side. So, we'll see what they're going to do to kind of match everything, because last week was a great show. The way they presented it, we had the debut of the Exhautled One, Brodie Lee, which he will be making his in-ring debut tonight. And also, we got the debut of Matt Hardy in AEW, which they announced ahead of time that he will be having a face-to-face confrontation with Chris Jericho. So some good stuff on the docket for tonight, and I'm curious to see, exactly where they go with the storylines, how they integrate these new guys in it. It's starting to get a little crowded in AEW. They're starting to get a pretty good sized roster, and there's some big names there. So I think this is going to be a very, very good show. It's going to be fun to break down. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. I'm glad you guys are here with me for this ride, and I'm ready. I'm ready to get into it. I hope you guys are too. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into this week's edition of AEW Dynamite. Real quick before we get started, guys, make sure you guys subscribe to the WWE Podcast on all of your podcasting platforms, whether it be Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, wherever you guys get your platforms. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you leave a review on Apple Podcast. That's how we get our name out there. That's how we grow. Give a review. Give a 5-star. Whatever you guys want to do. Every bit helps, and we really appreciate it. We have some big stuff coming up for WrestleMania week here in a couple weeks. I think Matt said we're going to have 7, 8, 9 different shows throughout the week getting ready for WrestleMania, and the craziness that's going on with that, and them pre-taping the show and everything. It's going to be an incredible week, and you guys don't want to miss any of the shows that the WWE Podcast is going to be putting out there. So make sure you guys subscribe and give a listen, because everybody puts a lot of hard work into the content that goes out there, and there's some really, really good stuff. So make sure you guys check it all out. You guys will enjoy it, I promise you. So AEW Dynamite starts with a breakdown, like I said, with all the matches coming up, and on commentary we have Tony Schiavone, Cody, and Kenny Omega. Schiavone did let us know that JR and Excalibur could not make the trip for this show, but they are doing fine. They're healthy. They just weren't able to make it. And JR is actually going to be live tweeting throughout the show. So I know this will be over. The show will be over by the time you guys hear this. But if you guys are watching live, you guys will probably be able to interact with JR as the show's going on. But the very first match of the night we got was Cody taking on Jimmy Havoc, which, I'm glad to see Jimmy Havoc on Dynamite. I've been asking about him quite a bit lately, because I think he's in my opinion, a very underutilized talent here in AEW. And he's been on Dark quite a bit. He's had some great matches on there, and he's actually 3-0 this year on Dark. He's had a nice run, and this is his first time this year kind of moving up in the singles competition to Dynamite. And I think this is going to be a good stepping stone for him, because being in there with Cody, anytime anybody's in there with Cody, it's going to help them out. And I thought Havoc had a great showing in this match. He's kind of got that mantra as being a hardcore guy and, just a high threshold of pain, has all these crazy matches, but he has shown that he's a great mat wrestler too, and this match was no different. He had a lot of good chain wrestling. He had some great moves that he did. I was very, very impressed with everything that he did. But I'll tell you guys one thing about this match that I wasn't a big fan of. I mentioned earlier last week about how there was some other wrestlers in the crowd. You had some heels on one side like MJF and Sean Spears. Jake Roberts was out there. There were some heels in this. So you had some baby faces on the other side, like Sonny Kiss and Colt Cabana, guys like that, and they were loud throughout the match, and they kind of added an extra element to it. Well, unfortunately, at least in this match, they didn't do that, and I did notice that there wasn't any chairs set up on ringside either. So I'm guessing, so this is going to be something they're going to do it throughout the entire show. But what they did is they kept going to the back, and they would show a couple of wrestlers sitting in a room watching the match, doing their betting, kind of like MJF and Sean Spears did last week. And it was the Gun Club and Sean Spears starting out. Well, then about halfway through the match, Chris Jericho showed up, and he was betting with them. And they kept cutting back to them. They probably cut back there 7 or 8 times throughout the show, or throughout the match, I'm sorry. And I guess I'm kind of old school when it comes to this type of stuff, because I thought it kind of took away from the match. That they did do a split screen most of the time. There was a couple times they didn't, so you were able to see what was going on. But I don't know, just I've always had this thought that if there's a match going on in the ring, I'm not a big fan of cutaways. I think it should be focused on just the guys in the ring, because they're the ones out there performing, especially in a circumstance like this when there's no crowd, when the entire audience is watching from home. And if you don't show the guys in the ring, nobody is seeing what's going on. So I just, I wasn't a big fan of that. I understand what they're trying to do, and they probably can't have that many people around the ring like they did last week because of, the social distancing and stuff like that. So I get it. I just thought it took away from the match a little bit. And anytime you got into it and they somebody got on a roll, they would cut to the back and just, kind of slowed down the pace of the match, in my opinion. But with that being said, I thought it was a good match. Like I said, Jimmy Havoc I thought had a good showing, but Cody Rhodes ended up getting the victory in the end. He hit a crossroads and then ended up picking up Jimmy Havoc and hitting a second crossroads. And in between the two of them, he had this really just mad look on his face, very, very aggressive. Showed, that aggressive American Nightmare side of Cody. And Kenny Omega on commentary was actually telling Cody to calm down, that, we got to focus. We can't be letting our emotions get the best of us. And, I guess cooler heads did kind of prevail by the end, but Cody ended up getting the victory. And after this, we saw a message from Jake Roberts on the big screen. It was actually a really cool visual that he was sitting behind a fire. It was kind of like a bonfire, it was completely dark around him, and all you could see is Jake sitting in a chair talking. And he pretty much told Cody that, he and Lance Archer just need one opportunity. That's all they're asking. They want one chance to do what they've came here to do, which they haven't said what that is yet. But, he told Cody, I don't care who you bring. You can bring, you bring the old man, talking about Arn Anderson. You can bring your wife, which he had a couple of things to say about her. And he said it didn't matter. He and Lance Archer want one opportunity to prove what they're doing. And it was an incredible promo by Jake Roberts. Jake Roberts has not been in the spotlight for a long time, and it's well documented about his demons and, the issues that he had in the past and how he's cleaned up and really, really turned his life around. And I'm glad to see him back in professional wrestling again. And having him in this managerial role is perfect because obviously, he can't take bumps and stuff like that. I mean, he maybe 1 or 2 here and there, but letting him be a mouthpiece for a monster like Lance Archer is awesome. And Jake Roberts still cuts one of the best promos in all of wrestling. That is one thing that has not changed. And this was another one that I really enjoyed. And after he said his piece, it showed Cody in the ring, and Cody just kind of had this serious look on his face, like he was kind of contemplating and gathering everything that Jake said. So it was a good segment. I like where they're going with this. Obviously, they're heading towards a Cody Lance Archer match down the road. I would guess probably the next pay-per-view, if and whenever that is. Hopefully sooner than later. But that's going to be a really good match when it happens. So overall, yeah, a very good segment by everybody. Jimmy Havoc looked great. Cody got the victory. Jake got his stuff in, and it kind of kept forwarded the storyline between Cody and Lance Archer. So overall, very good start to Dynamite this week. Up next, we got a one-on-one matchup pitting Darby Allin taking on Superbad Kip Sabian. When this match was announced when the show first started, I was really looking forward to this because I'm a big fan of both of these guys, especially Darby Allin, the way, he's just had the rocket strapped to him, and how over he's gotten with the crowd, and they ended up doing a video package with him before the match started. They've been doing these black and white videos every week, and they're really cool. I really like how they're done. And pretty much it was him wearing the different faces of the Inner Circle and putting them on this table while talking to Kip Sabian. Like it's very, very creepy the way he did it, but it was also really cool. And then he ends up lighting the table on fire and pretty much telling Kip Sabian that what he's going to do to him is because of how he's been treated by the Inner Circle. I'm kind of paraphrasing there. I don't remember exactly what he said. It was something like that. But it was a very good video package. And once we got back to the arena, they showed the commentators, and Cody is now doing commentary with Tony Schiavone. Kenny has went to the back. And this was a really fun match. Both guys had a really good showing. But what really stuck out to me in this was the commentary by Cody. Cody, when his wrestling career is done, is going to be an incredible announcer. I liked everything that he had to say. He's so knowledgeable of everything pro wrestling. He was making references from the 80s, from the 90s, talking about different locks and how certain moves reminded him of certain wrestlers from back in the day. Cody is just an endless book of wrestling knowledge. And he did a great job putting both these guys over. And he even put over Kip Sabian pretty strong in this too, because Cody mentioned how he had wrestled both of these guys on Dynamite. And even though he went the distance with Darby Allin, he said that he had more trouble with Kip Sabian because Sabian's kind of a harder hitter and he brings that UK style. And so I thought that was little things like that on commentary can really help a guy out, especially somebody like Kip Sabian that's on the rise and, trying to get over that next tier. And so I really enjoyed what Cody brought to the commentary for this. And it was a very good back and forth match. There was a little bit of a broadcast snafu during this. They tried to go to commercial and there was about 7 or 8 seconds of silence. Then they started talking again without it going to commercial. And then about 20 seconds later, it just cut Cody off and went to commercial. So I guess there was kind of a missed time cue there with the commercial. But with everything as crazy as it's being and stuff like that, I don't hold it against them. It happens. I'm sure there'll be people on Twitter and people all over social media giving AEW crap about it, but I'm not too worried about it. Like I said, production stuff like that kind of happens. A little different than the production stuff I talked about a couple weeks ago in the matches. This was it's something I just kind of let go. I'm not, like I said, not too terribly worried about it. But Darby Allin ends up getting the victory. Kip Sabian hit his finisher and got a close 2 count, and Darby ended up countering it into it was, I guess, I don't know if he's done this before, but it looked like the start of a figure 4 leg lock, and then he kind of fell over and rolled Kip Sabian up for a pinfall victory. It was really cool. And they called it the Last Supper. So I guess this is going to be kind of a finishing maneuver, kind of a ground finishing maneuver for Darby Allin, which we know he has the coffin drop, which is, a very impressive move, but you don't see very often a wrestler have a pinfall type of move for a finisher. That's something that's very old school as well. And, me personally, back in the day when I would play the WWE video games, WCW video games, stuff like that, I tend to use a lot of finishers that had a pinfall with it because, it's very effective. And I kind of had that same thought seeing this, and he got the win with it. So I like this, that Darby Allin has added this to his repertoire because he can do this against anybody. And if they make it where this is pretty much impossible to kick out of, it's just going to add, like I said, add another layer to Darby Allin and make him, even more of a star, in my opinion, because he can do this against the biggest names in the company. And it's something that's going to make him very dangerous and something that everybody has to look out for. So this is very good. Another good showing by both guys. Penelope Ford got involved throughout a lot of the match, per usual. But good match by both guys. This was a lot of fun. Next up, we got a singles match putting Jake Hager taking on the debuting Chico Adams. They put a video package for Jake Hager before this, showing his debut attacking Dustin Rhodes, and then the attack in the back not long after that when he threw Dustin into the side of the limo and broke his arm. And it was a really cool video package, just showing and highlighting all the destruction that Jake Hager has done since coming to AEW. And they also showed highlights of his match against Dustin at Revolution and some of his Bellator stuff, which I thought was really cool. So they're doing a really good job of making Hager into this monster, into like this kind of this unbeatable guy. And it was a really very well done package. But this matchup was, for lack of a better term, it was a glorified squash match. It only went about a minute. Hager just dominated from start to finish. Adams did get a couple of shots in, but Hager ended up hitting a big slam and putting on the triangle choke, and Adams immediately went out. So, very quick, very impressive win for Jake Hager. But after the match, the camera shows Hager celebrating in the ring, and all of a sudden, behind him, walking down the ramp, you see the AEW champion, Jon Moxley, show up, which we saw Moxley last week outside the arena, and he wasn't able to be in it because of his injuries. But this week, he was able to make an appearance. He gets right in the ring, gets in Hager's face, and they start slugging it out. Moxley immediately hits a paradigm shift on Hager, and Moxley pretty much thinks that it's done, but Hager grabs the leg of Moxley, takes him down, and puts an ankle lock in. And Moxley ends up fighting out and flipping Hager out of the ring. But Cody did a great job on commentary and putting over the fact that not many people even get up from the paradigm shift, much less had the wherewithal to make an offensive attack after it. And Hager was able to get up from it immediately, put in the ankle lock, and that's a very, very impressive thing and a very impressive booking decision for Jake Hager, because it shows that Hager is an absolute beast and that he can pretty much take Moxley's best shot and keep coming. So I think this is a match. I think this is going to be our next big world title feud. I thought Moxley might go a different way, but the way they've been going, it is looking like it's going to be Jake Hager, especially with Hager being the one that actually powerbombed him off the stage a couple of weeks ago. So this was fun. This was a very fun segment. It was good to see Moxley back in the ring. He looked good, and this is going to be a fun feud because Hager definitely is a legitimate threat to Jon Moxley and to that title. I can make a prediction now that it wouldn't surprise me if they put that title on Hager. It really wouldn't. I know Moxley hasn't had it very long, and he hasn't really defended it since he won it. But they could put it on. They could put it on Hager, and then maybe have a little bit of dissension between Hager and Jericho going forward, with Hager being the champion and Jericho being the leader of the Inner Circle. So, that might be where we start seeing the ruffles of the feathers within the Inner Circle. But that's a little ways down the line. It's still going to be a bit before we get this match, but it does look like we're getting Jon Moxley versus Jake Hager sooner than later. And I think that's going to be it's a fun feud already, but it's going to be an even better match when and if that match does happen for the AEW Championship. Back from break, the cameras caught up with AEW champion Jon Moxley in the back, and Moxley cut a quick promo pretty much telling Jake Hager that he's on his radar, and he told him that he would be in his blind spot no matter what the Inner Circle has going on with the Elite, and he proved it tonight. And he made a very bold statement saying that he will take Hager out even if it kills him. So Moxley 100% has his eyes focused on Jake Hager, so that is definitely going to be the feud going forward, and I am very excited about it. It's definitely going to be a lot of fun between these guys. After this, we got a video package from last week where we got the reveal of the long-awaited reveal of the Exhautled One for the Dark Order, who ended up being Brodie Lee, the former Luke Harper from the WWE. This was a big moment last week. A lot of people, myself included, thought that the Exalted One was going to end up being Matt Hardy, but they went a different direction, and Brodie Lee ended up being the Exalted One, which I am very happy with. And like I said, I wanted originally it to be Matt Hardy, but the more I thought about it and after it happened, I realized that this was probably the right call, because this puts Brodie Lee in a big spot, gets a big spotlight on him, and he's going to be a primetime player going forward in AEW. And after it, we got a very interesting segment. Pretty much it was Brodie Lee sitting at the head of a table eating dinner, and he had their names are escaping me. I apologize. But the tag team in the Dark Order, not Uno and Grayson, but the other tag team, are sitting there with him, and Brodie Lee is cutting up a steak and eating it while sitting there wearing a very, very nice suit. And he's talking about how, they're going to have strength in numbers, and that they're going to learn that they're going to be doing things differently now. They'll be doing things their way. They'll do what they want when they want. And as he's saying this, one of the guys starts to cut his steak, and Brodie Lee cuts him off and pretty much talks down to him and says that, no, you only eat when I eat. So it looks like they're going, I guess, kind of like a dictatorship role with Brodie Lee here, where, he's going to lead by example, and he's going to lead with an iron fist, and, his followers have to follow him in everything that he does. He has to be first in everything. So he tells the man to leave, and right after this, the other guy, I'm sorry, I apologize that their names are escaping me, but he sneezes, and this infuriates Brodie Lee. And this is when I kind of realized what was going on, and where I'm assuming that they're going with this is that Brodie Lee is going to be kind of an offshoot of Vince McMahon, where he's going to lead, his way. He's going to make sure everything is done his way, that he has his followers, but whatever he says goes, no matter what it is. And, it is a pretty big pot shot at the WWE and at Vince McMahon. Oh man, I could give my opinion on this for the next 30 minutes, but I won't do that. I'll say that for another time. But what I will say is this is very bold, and I don't know if I'm a big fan of the direction that they're going with this. I like that Brodie Lee's the Exalted One. I like that he's leading by example and leading with an iron fist, but I don't know if I agree with them taking all these shots at WWE. Brodie Lee took one last week during the video package of his reveal, saying that calling Christopher Daniels another old man that's out of touch, which was a shot at Vince McMahon as well. So that's one thing I've kind of had against AEW is the shots at WWE, where I understand why they're doing it, and because they're predicating, they're going towards a fan base that is unhappy with WWE, and they want to keep those viewers here. I get it, but I kind of thought AEW had gotten past this, where they weren't taking these pot shots anymore. But it looks like that's what Brodie Lee is going to be. He's going to be somebody that takes shots at WWE constantly and does certain things, especially with Vince McMahon, the person, and Vince McMahon, the character, where Brodie Lee's going to be very similar to him. So we'll see where they go. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of that, but I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to see how they do it and where they go with it. It was an entertaining segment, but it's definitely them taking shots at the WWE. So after this, we actually got the in-ring debut of the Exalted One, Brodie Lee, where he took on QT Marshall. And kind of similar to the Hager match, this was a glorified squash match. QT got a little bit of offense in, but it was pretty much Brodie Lee the entire time. Brodie Lee was very impressive, which is no shock because he's a great wrestler, and everybody knows that from his time in WWE, that he is one of the best workers in the world, especially for a guy his size. Definitely one of the better big men in all of wrestling. And he was very agile. He actually hit an Eddie Guerrero, the springboard senton that he does that Eddie used to do over the top rope from the apron. Brodie did that, and it was a very impressive spot. And he ends up getting a quick victory with the discus clothesline over QT Marshall. And, Cody, again, I'm going to keep praising him. He did a great job of putting Brodie over here. Even, with there being, there's past issues between the Elite and the Dark Order. He did a great job of putting Brodie Lee over and saying, how dangerous he is and how smart he is and how he has such a high ring IQ. So they're moving, they're putting Brodie Lee on a very, very high pedestal right out of the gate, which they should, and I'm glad that they're doing that. So, man, it has my attention. Obviously the Dark Order is going to be moving. The entire group is going to move up from this. And actually, after the match, one of the minions, the masked minions, was next to Brodie Lee and laid a mask on QT Marshall, and the announcers played up that it's an offering to join. And I think this is where we're going to start seeing the Dark Order really grow in numbers because of Brodie Lee, and they're going to see that how dangerous that the Dark Order is with strength in numbers. So I think it's only a matter of time before we start seeing some other AEW wrestlers join the Dark Order and make this into a huge faction, and a faction that's really got to be dealt with. And in my opinion, it's going to come down to where the AEW I would say that the Elite and the Inner Circle got to work together to put their differences aside just long enough to take care of the Dark Order, because I do feel like the Dark Order is going to be a faction feared by everybody, and they're probably going to take over AEW sooner than later. Again, kind of just a fantasy booking thing, in my opinion, but I kind of see that's where they're going with this, and I hope they do, because that would be a lot of fun. Because anytime you have two rival groups that do not like each other and they're feuding against each other with a common enemy, it always makes for fun television and for fun professional wrestling. So that's where I see them going with this. But overall, great in-ring debut by, I almost said Luke Harper. I got to be careful not to do that. By Brodie Lee, and I'm excited to see where they're heading with the Exalted One and with the Dark Order as a group. Next on the docket, it is time for our main event of the evening, pitting the AAA Mega Champion Kenny Omega taking on the Inner Circle Sammy Guevara. This match was excellent. This match was so much fun. Both guys really put all of it out there, doing this in front of nobody in the crowd, doing it just for the people at home. I give so much credit to both of these guys. They went out there for, it seemed like 20-25 minutes or so, and just put on an absolutely incredible match. It was very hard hitting, very back and forth, and man, it shows how good both of these guys are. Kenny Omega, still one of the best in the world, in my opinion, and this match definitely showed it. But I was, again, very, very impressed with Sammy Guevara. Sammy's getting better and better every week. You can tell he's getting more comfortable in his role in the Inner Circle, being that cocky heel. And, nobody takes anything away from him when it comes to his in-ring ability. He's been a great in-ring wrestler since his debut on AEW. And these guys went out here and had one of the best empty arena matches I've seen in a long time. I feel bad for these guys a little bit, because I wish there was people in the crowd. The crowd would have went absolutely nuts for this match. There were so many great spots, and man, these guys, they laid it all out there. And if you guys have not watched Dynamite by the time you listen to this, make sure you guys go back and at least watch this match, because this just shows how professional both of these guys are, how great of workers both these guys are. Because it was hard hitting. They laid in some shots in this match, and it was for all of us at home. So this was an absolute treat. Kenny Omega ended up getting the victory with the one-winged angel after hitting a couple of V-triggers. Toward the end of the match, Sammy Guevara, out of just a desperation, flipped off Kenny Omega, and Omega hit him with a nasty V-trigger. And the right after that is when he hit the one-winged angel for the victory. So, I could sit here and talk about this match and break it down spot by spot, but I know I wouldn't be able to do it justice. This was a great match, and it was a match that made you forget that there was anybody in the crowd, because a lot of times in these matches in the empty arenas, it reminds you that you look around you and there's not any noise. There's nobody cheering, and this match was the complete opposite. Both these guys just completely brought you in. You were focused on the two competitors in the ring, and this was great. And we're in a time period now where we're looking for distractions. We're looking for things that are keeping our minds off the negative things going on in the world, especially with the coronavirus and everything. And if you guys, like I said, if you guys have not watched this and you guys need that distraction, go watch this match, because it is 20-25 minutes of some of the best wrestling you'll see. I wouldn't say this was a 5-star match, because I think you have to have an energetic crowd to make a 5-star match. But when it comes to just two amazing wrestlers going out there and putting on a show, that's what we got in this match. So, thank you, Kenny Omega. Thank you, Sammy Guevara, for putting on this type of match. It was so much fun, guys. Like I said, I could break it down move by move, but I would not do this match justice. So the match went like 3 segments. It was a very, very long match. But it didn't feel like a long match. And, we've seen Kenny Omega these types of matches in New Japan with, with Okada and stuff like that. Not saying this match is the equivalent of those, because those are instant classics, some of the best matches of all time. But like I said, this is a match that really grabbed your attention, and it was so much fun. So, but yeah, awesome match. Kenny Omega is still the AAA Mega Champion, and that's the main event of the evening, the main event match. We still do have the confrontation between Chris Jericho and Matt Hardy to go, which I thought this was actually going to be in the quote unquote main event spot, talking about the match between Omega and Guevara. But the main event spot is held for probably going to be one of the biggest feuds going forward between Chris Jericho and Matt Hardy. So we'll get to that in just a second. We'll break that one down. So our main event segment starts with Chris Jericho coming out to Judas, as always. And a pretty funny thing that happened is he took the camera from a cameraman and had the cameraman sing his song, because there's nobody in the crowd to sing his song. So Jericho's still continuing this thing with people singing his song to the ring. It was really funny. It was a really entertaining way to start this segment. Jericho starts cutting a promo about Matt Hardy and actually invites Matt Hardy to join the Inner Circle. And as he's doing this, we see Vanguard 1, the drone for Matt Hardy, fly down. And this is where this segment took a very, very weird turn. This was one of the more interesting, for lack of a better term, segments that I've seen in a very, very long time. So Vanguard 1 flies down, and Jericho starts cutting a promo on Vanguard 1. And he pretty much tells Vanguard, he invites Vanguard 1 to join the Inner Circle. It tells him about all these different things he can have, like he can get the best of the bubbly down the gas tank, and he can find all of the drone Instagram models on Instagram will be chasing him around everywhere he is, and just with Chris Jericho being the greatness that is Chris Jericho, cutting this promo on Vanguard 1, and he asks Vanguard 1 to join the Inner Circle, and Vanguard 1 flies away. And Jericho gets mad and starts cutting a promo. Keeps cutting a promo, I should say, on Vanguard 1 as it flies away. Well, the camera pans out and you see Matt Hardy standing he's in the nosebleed sections. He's way up there. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to try my best to explain this. So the camera is pretty much where the stage is, facing the back of Chris Jericho, facing the ring, and also shows the empty crowd. Well, Matt Hardy all of a sudden teleports from the nosebleed sections to about the first section, the lower ball section. Then he teleports to the left side of the section, then teleports to the floor, and then teleports right to ringside. It was really good video work, obviously not live, because obviously, but it's different. It's definitely very broken Matt Hardy. And what's great about this is that for all of you that saw Matt Hardy when he was in Impact, and even the little bit of stuff that he did as Woken Matt Hardy in WWE, everything that he does with this character is just so out of left field. And you really got to take it with a grain of salt, and you really got to be very open-minded with this stuff. Because if you think of this with the mindset of, I'm an old school pro wrestling fan, and, this stuff is hokey, then yeah, you're probably not going to like this. This is, like I said, completely out of left field, completely different than anything that you see. But this is what Matt Hardy and who Matt Hardy is. This is what broken Matt Hardy is. And so he gets to ringside. He gets in the ring with Chris Jericho. And what's interesting about this promo exchange is that neither guy had a microphone. I guess they had not the standard handheld mics that you see. They had microphones attached to them. And they went back and forth, and Jericho many times asked Matt Hardy to join the Inner Circle. And Matt Hardy started talking about how he's not the same Matt Hardy anymore. He is this new entity called Damascus, and Damascus is a fighter. He's 3,000 years old, and he's, for lack of a better term, more evil and more destructive than Zenith, his former entity of his broken character. And it's... Guy, this promo was just out there. It's very, very out there, and it's another thing you guys you got to check it out. You got to see it, because this is definitely, if you guys, I know if you guys listen to this are more than likely AEW fans, but if anybody's listening to this that is strictly a WWE fan, I don't know if this is something you'll like, because this is something that you would never see in the WWE. It's completely different, completely just wild. But one thing I will say about it is it's very, very entertaining. And there was 2 or 3 times when I was listening to this and watching this, I just kind of shook my head and going, what am I watching right now? It's entertaining, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm watching, which I guess is probably pretty similar to the mindset Vince McMahon has when he saw the broken character and saw the ultimate deletion between Matt and Bray Wyatt. It's probably the same thing he thought. But if you can watch this with an open mind and just realize this is entertainment, it's a lot of fun. And this segment was a lot of fun. The promo exchange was, and I don't know how Chris Jericho and Matt Hardy, especially Chris Jericho, can keep a straight face during this entire segment, because it's so over the top, and there was a lot of funny lines, and Chris Jericho was such a professional, just to keep being the cocky heel, to be the Le Champion. It was very, very well done. And like I said, Chris Jericho asked many times for Matt Hardy to join the Inner Circle. Matt Hardy turned it down every time, and then he said that he will delete the Inner Circle. And Jericho said that he can't get to Matt, so he's going to slap some sense into him. So he slaps Matt Hardy, and Hardy drops him with one right hand. And Jericho said, you do have a lot of power. You dropped the Le Champion with one hand, but now I can see that Matt Hardy's going to get his butt kicked. And then Sammy Guevara ends up attacking Matt from behind. Well, thankfully, Cody and Kenny were both still on commentary, so they both run down with chairs, get a couple shots in on Jericho and Guevara, and they bail to the stage. Well, as the show's going off the air, Matt Hardy gets back to his feet, starts doing the delete chant, while fire and flames are shooting out from the stage. And it kind of caught me off guard, because this entire show, there was no pyro. They cut the pyro down this entire show. Kenny Omega didn't have pyro. Cody didn't have pyro. There was none done this entire show. But they did throw the flames in at the very end. And so I thought that was a nice little touch, because nobody's expecting it, because I know the smart fans are watching this going, oh, there's no pyro tonight. So when the flames shoot up, it kind of made you jump back a little bit and was like, whoa, okay, cool. So overall, guys, this segment was a lot of fun, and it was very, very entertaining. But again, I have to say, you have to go into this with a very, very open mind. If you're a serious wrestling fan, or you don't like things that are kind of hokey, this wasn't the segment for you. And this entire feud and the entire broken Matt Hardy character is not going to be for you. But if you guys can sit down and enjoy this and just kind of sit back and smile, this is for you. And this is something you guys are really enjoy. And now that they've pushed back the blood and guts match a little bit, we're probably going to be getting some of these things very similar to this every single week. Probably not to this extent, but Matt Hardy is going to be as broken as possible, especially since he was so limited in the WWE, and now he has the free reign. Yeah, we're going to be seeing some crazy stuff from Matt Hardy. Overall, guys, I thought Dynamite was a very good episode this week. There was a lot of good things. No women's matches this week, which was very weird. I know normally we get at least one, normally two, but the women didn't have a segment the entire show, so I thought that was a little odd. We got the in-ring debut of Brodie Lee. He looked very, very impressive. I'm really excited to see where the Exalted One and the Dark Order are going to go from here. I think they're on the rise, and there's going to be some big things ahead for them. Moxley, we got the continuation of Moxley and Hager. That's going to be a huge match when it happens. I think Hager is going to be a legitimate threat for Moxley and a legitimate contender for that title. And it would not surprise me if Hager did end up winning that title, even though Moxley has not had the title very long. So that's going to be a fun feud, very hard hitting. Nothing out of the ordinary with that one. It's just going to be two guys that don't like each other that are very physical fighters, and it's going to be a brawl. So, that's going to be it this week, guys, for Dynamite. Like I said, very good show. It's a different feeling right now compared to most AEW shows, because AEW normally has a very, very boisterous crowd, and doing the entire show without a crowd, it was a different feeling. But I thought AEW did a good job of using the resources they had to put on a great show. And definitely our main event match we had between Kenny Omega and Sammy Guevara. Like I said when I broke it down, if you guys have not watched this match yet, make sure you go back and watch it, because this match was hard hitting. It was a lot of fun. Both guys really laid it all out there. So make sure you guys check that out before next week's Dynamite. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thanks for hanging out with me. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter. I'm at Run With Turtles. If you guys want to talk about the shows, talk about anything going on in the wrestling world, I'm easy to get a hold of. You guys just send me a DM, send me a tweet. I'll be more than happy to chat it up with you guys. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see y'all for the next edition of AEW Dynamite.